What if I told you that the real secret to activating unlimited money flow in your life has nothing to do with what you do, what you say, or even what you think, but everything to do with what you choose to guard in absolute silence? This might sound counterintuitive in a world that tells us to speak our dreams into existence, to declare our goals loudly, and to share our vision with everyone who will listen. But before we begin, please hit the like button and let me know where in the world you're watching from today. It's always fascinating seeing who's joining us from around the world, but what you're about to discover might surprise you, because there's an ancient metaphysical principle that the truly prosperous have never shared openly, not because they're selfish, but because they understand something profound about the invisible forces that govern wealth manifestation. Has this ever happened to you? You start feeling incredibly excited about a new financial goal, a business idea, or a breakthrough you're about to make. The energy feels electric, unstoppable. So naturally you begin sharing it with friends, family, maybe even posting about it on social media. You talk about your plans, your vision, your certainty that this time will be different. But then, almost mysteriously, something shifts. That blazing enthusiasm starts to cool down. The opportunities that seemed so clear begin to blur. The momentum you felt so strongly just vanishes. If you've experienced this frustrating pattern, you're not alone. Millions of people unknowingly sabotage their own manifestation process by exposing their energetic creations to the world before they've had time to take root in the invisible realm where all abundance is born. The truth is, money and prosperity operate on vibrational frequencies that most people never learn to access. These frequencies don't respond to desperate affirmations, vision boards covered in pictures of sports cars, or endless positive thinking. They respond to something far more subtle, far more powerful, and far more sacred, the coherent vibration of silent certainty. Stay with me until the end of this video, because what we're exploring today isn't just another manifestation technique. This is about understanding why the most successful people in history, from ancient spiritual masters to modern-day moguls, have always protected their most important intentions with sacred silence. This is about discovering why premature sharing doesn't just fail to help your dreams, it actively weakens them by breaking the delicate energetic process that transforms invisible desire into tangible reality. The principle you're about to learn has been hidden in plain sight for centuries, whispered about in esoteric circles, and practiced by those who seem to attract wealth effortlessly while others struggle endlessly despite their best efforts. It's not about working harder, networking more, or finding the right strategy. It's about aligning with the quantum field in a way that most people accidentally disrupt before their manifestation can fully form. What comes next will challenge everything you think you know about creating abundance, and by the end, you'll understand exactly why silence isn't just golden. It's the very foundation upon which all lasting prosperity is built. Subscribing here means you're ready to receive regular insights into the invisible mechanics of reality creation. This community is built for those who understand that true transformation happens from the inside out. This is where most people make their biggest mistake in the journey toward financial transformation. They assume that the universe operates like a marketplace where the loudest voice, the most persistent demander, or the most desperate person gets served first. But the hidden truth behind every major breakthrough in wealth creation reveals something completely different. Money doesn't flow to those who desire it most, intensely, or who work themselves to exhaustion chasing it. Money, like all forms of energy in this universe, responds to vibrational alignment. It moves toward those who have mastered the art of maintaining the correct frequency in complete silence, without needing external validation or constant reassurance that their process is working. Think about this for a moment. Every billionaire, every person who seems to attract opportunities effortlessly, every individual who appears to have cracked some secret code to abundance. They all share one common trait that goes far beyond their business strategies or educational background. They understand how to hold space for their vision without contaminating it with other people's energy, opinions, or limitations. This isn't some new age fantasy or wishful thinking. These are universal principles that have governed manifestation since the beginning of time, operating from mental, spiritual, and conscious perspectives that most people never learn to access. When Napoleon Hill spent years studying the wealthiest individuals of his era, he discovered that their most powerful asset wasn't their connections or their capital. It was their ability to maintain burning desire without dissipating its energy through premature exposure. Neville Goddard, one of the most profound teachers of conscious creation, repeatedly emphasized that everything visible in our physical reality first exists in the invisible realm of consciousness. But here's what he discovered that changed everything. The invisible realm only responds to pure intention, and pure intention can only be sustained when it's protected from the diluting influence of external interference. This is why the silent ritual has been the foundation of true wealth building throughout history. It's not about keeping secrets for the sake of mystery. It's about understanding that your energetic field operates like a delicate ecosystem. When you transform your inner environment into a magnet for abundance through conscious silence, you're working with forces that most people accidentally disrupt before they even get started. The ritual itself is deceptively simple, yet profoundly powerful. It requires no special tools, no complicated ceremonies, no expensive courses or mentors. What it demands is something far more valuable: the discipline to resist the urge to seek validation for your emerging transformation. It asks you to trust the invisible process even when your logical mind screams for proof, evidence, or someone else's approval. Behind the scenes of every major financial breakthrough, there's always been a period of silent gestation, a time when the person held their vision so privately, so sacredly, that it could grow strong enough to withstand the inevitable challenges that come with any real change. This isn't about isolation or secrecy born from fear. This is about energetic protection born from wisdom. The most successful people intuitively understand that when you share your developing vision too early, you're essentially asking others to help you hold the frequency of something they've never experienced themselves. You're inviting their doubts, their limitations, their well-meaning but potentially devastating advice into your delicate creative process. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic because there's a specific way to activate this silent transformation that can literally reorganize your relationship with money from the inside out. The people who master this approach don't just attract more wealth, they become completely different human beings in the process, operating from a level of inner certainty that makes their external success almost inevitable. Write in the comments: "This makes sense to me," if something about this deeper truth is resonating with your own experience. What most people don't realize is that this journey goes far beyond simply attracting more money into your bank account. We're talking about a complete reprogramming of your wealth mentality at the deepest cellular level. This is about rewiring the very neural pathways that have been conditioned by years, perhaps decades, of scarcity thinking, fear-based decisions, and inherited beliefs about what you're capable of receiving. When you begin this transformation, something remarkable happens behind the scenes of your consciousness. You start reconnecting with the universal source from your center, not from your desperate edges where most people operate. This center point is where your true power lives, that quiet place inside you that has never doubted your worthiness, never questioned your potential, never accepted limitation as permanent reality. The beauty of this process is that it doesn't require you to become someone completely different overnight. Instead, it asks you to remember who you were before the world taught you to doubt your natural magnetism for abundance. Every human being is born with an innate connection to prosperity consciousness. We simply get trained out of it through well-meaning but misguided programming from society, family, and our own traumatic experiences with money. As you allow this new frequency to establish itself within your energetic system, something extraordinary begins to unfold. Your external reality starts reorganizing itself to match your internal shift, not through force or manipulation, but through natural magnetic attraction. You begin creating a world where abundance manifests effortlessly, where opportunities seem to find you rather than the other way around, where synchronicities become your new normal rather than rare occurrences. This is where the real magic reveals itself, because you're no longer trying to bend the universe to your will. You're aligning yourself with universal laws that were always working, but which you couldn't access from your previous level of consciousness. It's like tuning into a radio station that was broadcasting all along. You just needed to adjust your frequency to receive the signal clearly. But here's something profound that happens when you embark on this path of conscious wealth creation. You discover that you're not walking this journey alone. There's an invisible network of people who are also awakening to these deeper truths about money, abundance, and their own unlimited potential. When you authentically share your experience, when you vulnerably admit that you're exploring these concepts, you activate connections with others who are on the same quest. A like on this video isn't just support, it's an energetic acknowledgement that you recognize truth when you hear it, and it helps this message reach others who are ready for this level of conscious creation. This network isn't built on superficial connections or transactional relationships. It's woven together by something much more powerful, the recognition that we're all searching for the same fundamental things, a life with more meaning, deeper peace, and yes, genuine abundance that extends far beyond material wealth. When you find the courage to say, "I'm also questioning everything I was taught about money," or "I'm ready to try a completely different approach," you send out an energetic signal that draws like-minded souls into your orbit. The invisible threads that connect conscious creators are strengthened every time someone acknowledges their participation in this ancient yet revolutionary approach to abundance. These connections often lead to collaborations, opportunities, and support systems that would never have emerged through traditional networking or forced relationship building. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic because there's a specific way that this network amplifies your individual transformation in ways that seem almost supernatural. When you understand how to tap into this collective energy while maintaining your personal sovereignty over your manifestation process, the results can be absolutely mind-blowing. Write in the comments, "I'm also on this path," if you feel the pull toward this deeper exploration of conscious abundance creation. There's something profoundly transformative that happens when you become selective about where you invest your energy, particularly when it comes to the content you consume and the conversations you engage in. Every piece of information you allow into your consciousness either elevates your frequency or diminishes it. There's no neutral ground when it comes to energetic influence. When you choose to engage with content that genuinely nourishes your soul, that invites you to look inward rather than seeking external validation, you're making an energetic decision that ripples out far beyond your personal experience. You're casting a vote for consciousness, for depth, for the kind of authentic transformation that actually creates lasting change. Your participation in these deeper conversations doesn't just benefit you, it creates a resonance field that helps this message reach others who desperately need to hear it, often people who are struggling in silence with the same questions you've been wrestling with. But here's where most people get trapped in a cycle that feels absolutely maddening. They pour their heart and soul into working harder than they've ever worked before. They wake up earlier, stay up later, sacrifice their relationships, their health, even their peace of mind, all in pursuit of that breakthrough moment when abundance will finally arrive. Yet no matter how much effort they exert, prosperity remains frustratingly elusive, like a mirage that seems real from a distance but vanishes the moment they think they're about to reach it. If this describes your experience, I want you to understand something crucial. This isn't your fault, and it's not because you're not working hard enough, smart enough, or deserving enough. What you're experiencing is the natural result of operating without knowledge of an invisible code that governs how abundance actually functions behind the scenes of reality. Most people have been programmed to believe that success follows a linear equation. More effort equals better results. More hours equals more money. More sacrifice equals greater reward. But this programming is fundamentally flawed because it ignores the energetic component of wealth creation. It treats money as if it were purely physical, when in reality, money is first and foremost an energetic phenomenon that responds to vibrational alignment, not just physical action. The invisible code operates on principles that seem counterintuitive to the logical mind. It suggests that sometimes the most powerful action you can take is to stop acting altogether. Sometimes the breakthrough comes not from pushing harder, but from releasing the desperation that's been blocking your natural flow. Sometimes what you need isn't more strategy, but more stillness. This creates an internal conflict for many people because everything they've been taught about achievement contradicts what actually works at the energetic level. They've been conditioned to equate worthiness with struggle, to believe that if something comes easily, it can't be valuable. But the universe operates on principles of flow, not force. Natural systems always seek the path of least resistance, and abundance is no exception to this universal law. The frustration you feel when your tremendous efforts don't yield proportional results isn't a sign that you should give up. It's often a sign that you're ready to discover a completely different approach. It's your soul's way of telling you that there's a more elegant path available, one that honors both your ambition and your well-being, one that creates sustainable prosperity rather than burnout. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic because there's a specific shift in perspective that can instantly transform your relationship with effort and results. Once you understand this shift, you'll never again feel like you're swimming against the current of life, and instead, you'll discover how to move with the natural flow of abundance that's always been available to you. Write in the comments, "I'm ready for a different approach," if you feel exhausted by the old way of chasing success and open to exploring this more effortless path. The devastating truth that most people never discover is that their biggest obstacle to abundance isn't a lack of talent, intelligence, or even opportunity. The real problem lies in something far more subtle and insidious. They're operating from a mental framework that was never truly theirs to begin with. They're following inherited logic, ancestral programming, and societal narratives that were designed for survival, not for thriving. Think about this carefully. How many of your beliefs about money actually originated from your own direct experience versus what you absorbed from your parents, your culture, your educational system, or the media? Most of us are walking around with financial operating systems that were installed without our conscious consent, often during our most vulnerable and impressionable years. These inherited mental narratives create invisible barriers that block the natural flow of receiving. They whisper things like, "Money doesn't grow on trees," "You have to work hard for everything you get," or "Wealthy people must have done something wrong to get there." These aren't universal truths. They're conditioned responses that have been passed down through generations of people who never learned to access their own innate abundance consciousness. When you subscribe to this channel, you're choosing to stay connected with content that nourishes your consciousness and supports your journey toward authentic abundance. This is where we continue exploring the deeper mysteries of manifestation together. The impact of this programming runs much deeper than most people realize. It creates an internal environment where anxiety becomes the default state when thinking about money, where struggle feels more familiar than ease, where we unconsciously push away the very thing we say we want most. But here's what the most successful people have discovered. Money cannot be attracted through anxiety, and it absolutely cannot be conquered through force. Money, like all forms of energy, responds to alignment, not aggression. This is why so many intelligent, hard-working, well-intentioned people find themselves spinning their wheels financially. They're applying tremendous effort, but they're applying it through a lens of inherited limitation rather than natural abundance. It's like trying to drive a car with the parking brake engaged. No matter how hard you press the accelerator, you're fighting against your own system. The breakthrough comes when you recognize that true transformation must begin from within, not from without. This isn't about positive thinking or forcing yourself to believe something that doesn't feel authentic. This is about something far more profound, learning to quiet the noise of external programming so you can finally hear the wisdom that has been waiting patiently inside you all along. There's a voice within you, soft, almost imperceptible to the busy mind, that has always known exactly what you need to do, exactly what decisions would serve your highest good, exactly what path would lead you to your most authentic expression of abundance. This voice doesn't compete with the loudness of fear, doubt, or social conditioning. It doesn't shout or demand attention. Instead, it guides with gentle certainty, offering insights that feel like remembering rather than learning. The journey toward conscious wealth creation is really a journey back to this inner knowing. It's about stripping away the layers of programming that have convinced you to seek answers everywhere, except the one place where your true answers actually reside. This inner wisdom doesn't operate according to external timelines or conventional logic. It moves according to a deeper intelligence that understands timing, flow, and the perfect orchestration of circumstances that most people mistake for luck or coincidence. When you begin to trust this quiet guidance over the loud demands of inherited programming, something extraordinary starts to happen. Your decisions become more aligned, your actions feel more effortless, and opportunities begin appearing that you could never have forced or manipulated into existence. This isn't magic. This is what happens when you stop fighting against your own nature and start working with the intelligence that created you. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic because there's a specific practice that can help you distinguish between the voice of your inherited programming and the voice of your authentic wisdom. Once you master this distinction, every decision you make becomes a step closer to the abundant life you're truly meant to live. Write in the comments, "I'm ready to trust my inner knowing," if you feel called to explore this deeper level of guidance that exists beyond all the external noise. What most people don't realize is that every single word you speak carries a specific vibrational signature that directly impacts your energetic field. This isn't metaphorical poetry. This is measurable science. Words are not just sounds or symbols. They're powerful frequencies that either elevate your consciousness or reinforce patterns of limitation. When you consistently speak from a place of scarcity, worry, or complaint, you're essentially programming your nervous system to resonate with those exact frequencies, making them your default energetic state. Think about the transformation that happens in your body when you say, "I can't afford this," versus "I'm choosing not to purchase this right now." The first statement carries the heavy frequency of limitation and creates a physiological stress response. The second carries the lighter frequency of conscious choice and personal empowerment. Your cells, your nervous system, your entire energetic field responds differently to each vibration. And over time, these seemingly small differences compound into dramatically different life experiences. This is why silence holds such extraordinary power in the manifestation process. When you break the habit of constantly verbalizing your concerns, doubts, and complaints, you're essentially interrupting the automatic programming that keeps you stuck in survival mode. Silence forces you out of what I call complaint autopilot, that unconscious pattern of speaking your problems into existence over and over again, thereby strengthening their hold on your reality. In that space of conscious silence, something remarkable happens. A different, much cleaner frequency begins to emerge. This isn't the silence of suppression or denial, but the silence of conscious choice. It's the difference between being quiet because you're afraid to speak and being quiet because you're wise enough to know when words serve you and when they don't. The hidden truth behind every major transformation is that the most powerful changes happen in private, long before anyone else can see them. When you make the decision to maintain your deepest intentions and decrees in private, you're not hiding from the world. You're protecting your emerging reality from the inevitable interference of external opinions, doubts, and energy that doesn't match your new frequency. There's profound wisdom in keeping your most sacred goals to yourself, at least in their initial stages. Every time you share a developing vision with someone who can't hold that same frequency, you're essentially asking them to help you sustain something they've never experienced themselves. More often than not, their well-meaning but limited perspective begins to dilute your clarity and weaken your resolve. But when you maintain your decrees privately, when you hold your vision in the sacred space of your own consciousness, something incredible occurs. You strengthen that intention with every moment of private focus. You're no longer dividing your energy between maintaining your vision and defending it from others' limitations. All of your creative force remains concentrated on the one thing that matters most, the vibrational alignment between what you desire and who you're becoming. This is especially powerful when it comes to gratitude. Most people wait until they receive something before they express appreciation for it. But when you learn to thank in sincere silence for what you don't yet see in physical form, you're doing something revolutionary. You're demonstrating to the universe, and more importantly, to your own subconscious mind, a level of trust that transcends the need for external validation. This silent gratitude sends an unmistakable message. I trust so completely in the process of creation that I don't need proof before I acknowledge the gift. This isn't positive thinking or wishful visualization. This is energetic maturity. This is operating from a frequency that assumes abundance rather than hoping for it. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic because there's a specific way to harness this silent power that can literally reorganize your relationship with receiving. When you understand how to work with the invisible forces that respond to private intention, you begin to experience synchronicities and opportunities that seem to appear out of nowhere. Write in the comments, "I'm learning to create in silence," if you're ready to explore this more intimate approach to conscious manifestation. The revelation that changes everything is understanding that your consciousness isn't separate from the field of infinite possibilities that surrounds you. It's intimately connected to it. Every thought you hold, every gesture you make, every emotion you sustain in the privacy of your inner world becomes a direct communication with the quantum field. This isn't spiritual metaphor. This is the cutting edge of physics meeting ancient wisdom in the most practical way imaginable. When you hold a vision in silence, when you feel gratitude for something that hasn't yet materialized, when you make decisions from a place of abundance consciousness, even when your bank account suggests otherwise, you're essentially placing an order with the universe. But here's what makes this so powerful. The quantum field doesn't respond to your words or your logical reasoning. It responds to the vibrational signature of your authentic emotional state. This means that every moment you spend in silent alignment with your desired reality, you're literally weaving the energetic threads that will eventually become your physical experience. You're not just hoping or wishing, you're actively participating in the creation process at the most fundamental level of reality. The Invisible work you do in these quiet moments of conscious intention is what determines the quality and timing of what shows up in your visible world. Most people completely underestimate the power of this invisible influence because they've been conditioned to believe that only physical action creates results. But quantum physics has proven what mystics have always known. Consciousness shapes reality at the subatomic level. Your sustained attention, especially when it's held in the sacred container of silence, literally influences the behavior of the field of possibilities around you. The transformation becomes undeniable when you learn to sustain this new vibrational frequency without constantly seeking external validation or proof that it's working. This is where most people falter. They start the process with enthusiasm, but then their need for immediate confirmation undermines the very foundation they're trying to build. They check their bank account daily, looking for signs. They analyze every interaction, searching for evidence. They share their process with others, hoping someone will confirm they're on the right track. But something absolutely extraordinary happens when you develop the inner strength to maintain your new frequency regardless of what appears to be happening in your external circumstances. The invisible forces that govern synchronicity, opportunity, and what most people call luck begin to move on your behalf in ways that defy logical explanation. If this conversation touched something real within you, if you felt a shift in your understanding of how abundance actually works, that like button is a way of saying yes to more content that speaks to your soul's deepest knowing. Suddenly, people start appearing in your life who have exactly the information, connections, or resources you need. Conversations happen that seem coincidental, but contain precisely the guidance you've been seeking. Opportunities begin opening that you never actively pursued, but that align perfectly with your silent intentions. What seemed completely blocked or impossible starts flowing with an ease that feels almost supernatural. This isn't because you've manipulated the universe or forced outcomes through positive thinking. This is what naturally occurs when your vibrational frequency becomes stable enough to interact harmoniously with the creative forces that are always operating behind the scenes of reality. You've essentially synchronized your personal energy field with the universal flow of abundance, and that synchronization creates a magnetic effect that draws aligned experiences into your orbit. The most remarkable aspect of this process is how effortless it feels once you're in the flow. You stop pushing, striving, and trying to control outcomes. Instead, you begin responding to intuitive impulses, following seemingly random urges that consistently lead to meaningful connections and opportunities. Your decision-making becomes guided by an intelligence that sees patterns and possibilities your logical mind could never calculate. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic because there's a specific way to accelerate this synchronization process that most people never discover. It involves understanding how to work with the natural rhythms of creation rather than fighting against them, and how to recognize the subtle signs that indicate your silent work is beginning to manifest in the physical realm. Write in the comments, "I feel the invisible moving," if you've ever experienced those mysterious moments when everything suddenly starts falling into place without any logical explanation. Here's where everything shifts from theory to lived experience. And this shift is so profound that most people can feel it happening in real time. True abundance, the kind that transforms not just your bank account, but your entire relationship with life, doesn't actually begin when that unexpected check arrives in the mail, or when you finally land that breakthrough contract you've been pursuing. These external manifestations are simply the echo of something much more significant that happened within you first. Real abundance consciousness activates the exact moment you make an internal decision that changes everything. You decide to stop measuring your worth, your potential, and your inner peace based on external results. This is the spiritual principle of coherence in action. It's the recognition that your value, as a human being was never dependent on what you achieved, acquired, or accomplished. Your worth is inherent, unchangeable, and completely independent of any outcome the world might deliver. This decision sounds simple, but it represents one of the most challenging transitions a person can make, because our entire society is built on the opposite premise. We've been trained from childhood to believe that our worth fluctuates based on our performance, our possessions, our achievements. But when you make the conscious choice to unhook your sense of value from external validation, something extraordinary happens in your energetic field. It's as if a lock that you didn't even know existed suddenly clicks open. The desperate, grasping energy that has been driving your actions dissolves, and in its place emerges a calm certainty that operates from an entirely different frequency. You're no longer vibrating from need, anxiety, or the fear of not being enough. Instead, you begin operating from a state of inner fullness that doesn't require anything external to validate its existence. When someone successfully activates this level of consciousness, their entire approach to opportunity and abundance transforms. They stop chasing, stop forcing, stop trying to convince the universe to give them what they want. Instead, they enter into a flow state where opportunities seem to naturally gravitate toward them, often in ways that surpass what they originally thought they wanted. This happens because conviction becomes unnecessary when you're already vibrating as if your desires are integrated into your current experience. You're not trying to attract something foreign to your energy field. You're simply allowing what already belongs to you to find its way into physical form. It's the difference between a magnet desperately reaching for metal and a magnet simply being magnetic. The people who master this consciousness develop what I call outcome independence. They remain completely committed to their vision while being simultaneously unattached to how or when it manifests. This isn't apathy or disengagement. It's a sophisticated form of trust that recognizes the intelligence operating beyond their limited perspective. Their decision-making process changes dramatically. Instead of calculating every move based on potential outcomes, they begin following inspiration, intuition, and inner guidance that often leads them down paths they never would have considered logically. But these seemingly random decisions consistently open doors that more strategic approaches never could. The transformation is visible to others, even though the person hasn't necessarily changed anything about their external behavior. There's a different quality to their presence, a kind of relaxed confidence that makes people want to collaborate with them, support them, or simply be around them. They've become a magnet, not through manipulation or technique, but through authentic alignment with their own inner abundance. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic because there's a specific recognition that happens once you've unlocked this state of consciousness, and understanding this recognition can help you identify when you're operating from this elevated frequency versus when you've slipped back into old patterns of striving and efforting. Write in the comments, "I'm ready to stop chasing," if you feel called to explore this shift from desperate seeking to magnetic allowing. The recognition of how authentic spiritual abundance manifests is completely different from what most people expect. When wealth begins flowing from the spiritual realm, it doesn't announce itself with dramatic fanfare or obvious signs. Instead, it arrives as a series of seemingly unrelated synchronicities that, when viewed together, reveal an intelligence far greater than anything your logical mind could have orchestrated. These manifestations show up as decisions that feel surprisingly easy to make, even though they involve significant changes in direction. They appear as unexpected encounters with exactly the right person at precisely the moment you need their expertise, connection, or insight. They manifest as ideas that seem to download into your consciousness fully formed, often providing solutions to problems you weren't even consciously working on. Each of these movements, no matter how small it might seem in isolation, represents a signal that you're operating in alignment with forces that extend far beyond your individual capacity. This is how you know you've tapped into something authentic rather than forced. The universe begins responding to your vibrational state with a precision that feels both mysterious and completely natural at the same time. But here's where the profound difference becomes crystal clear. The speed and ease of these manifestations depend entirely on the internal state from which you're creating. When fear drives your manifestation process, when scarcity consciousness underlies your desires, everything becomes laborious. Every step forward requires tremendous effort. Obstacles seem to multiply rather than dissolve. Progress feels like swimming upstream against an invisible current that's constantly pushing you backward. This resistance isn't punishment or bad luck. It's simply the natural result of trying to create abundance from a vibration of lack. You're essentially asking the universe to deliver something that contradicts your fundamental energetic signature. It's like trying to tune into a radio station while broadcasting on a completely different frequency. The signals get mixed, confused, and ultimately produce static rather than clear reception. However, when you learn to manifest from what I call silent certainty, that quiet, unshakable knowing that doesn't require external proof to maintain itself, everything changes. This isn't positive thinking or forced optimism. This is a deep, inner state that has moved beyond doubt, beyond the need to convince itself or anyone else of its validity. It simply knows, and that knowing creates a vibrational coherence that the quantum field recognizes immediately. From this state, the universe responds with remarkable speed and precision. Doors open that you didn't even know existed. Resources appear from unexpected sources. People say yes to requests that seemed unlikely to be approved. The path forward becomes illuminated step by step, often revealing opportunities that are far better than what you originally thought you wanted. The quantum field is responding not to your words, your affirmations, or your vision boards. It's responding to the authentic frequency you're broadcasting from your deepest core. When that frequency is clean, coherent, and free from the contradictory signals of doubt and desperation, manifestation becomes as natural as breathing. This is why the most successful manifestors often appear calm, almost detached from their outcomes. They're not indifferent to results. They're simply operating from a level of consciousness that doesn't need external validation to maintain its equilibrium. They've learned to hold their vision with the same relaxed confidence you might feel about the sun rising tomorrow. Not because you're forcing it to happen, but because you trust the natural order of things. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic, because there's a specific practice that can help you identify when you're manifesting from fear versus when you're creating from authentic spiritual alignment. Once you master this distinction, you'll never again waste energy swimming against the current of universal flow. Write in the comments, "I'm choosing silent certainty," if you feel ready to release the struggle and step into this more effortless way of creating your reality. The most heartbreaking pattern I see repeatedly is people who have become their own worst enemy without even realizing it. They speak passionately about wanting abundance. They invest in courses and strategies. They take action with tremendous dedication, yet they remain stuck in cycles of financial struggle that seem to defy logic. What's happening beneath the surface is a fundamental conflict between their conscious desires and their unconscious programming. These individuals will declare with complete sincerity that they want prosperity, but if you could measure their internal frequency, you'd discover they're broadcasting guilt about having more than others, shame about past financial mistakes, or deep-seated beliefs that they don't deserve to live comfortably. They say they want to prosper, but their energetic signature is transmitting unworthiness, fear, and self-judgment on a continuous loop. This creates a devastating internal contradiction that the universe cannot resolve in their favor. The cosmic intelligence that responds to our vibrational requests doesn't have the ability to listen to our are words while ignoring our frequency. It doesn't pass our intentions while overlooking our emotions. It simply responds to the most consistent signal we're broadcasting, which is often the one we're least aware of sending. The transformation begins when you recognize that changing your external circumstances requires first healing your internal relationship with abundance itself. This isn't about forcing positive thoughts or pretending you feel worthy when you don't. This is about excavating the buried beliefs, inherited shame, and unconscious programming that have been sabotaging your best efforts from behind the scenes. What makes this work so profound is that these principles aren't confined to any particular spiritual tradition, religious doctrine, or cultural system. When you study the deepest teachings from completely different traditions across history, you discover the same fundamental truths appearing again and again, expressed in different languages, but pointing to identical realities. Ancient Egyptian mystery schools understood the power of silent intention. Buddhist masters taught about the illusory nature of external appearances. Christian mystics spoke of faith that moves mountains through inner knowing rather than outer demonstration. Indigenous shamans worked with invisible forces that reshape reality through consciousness. Hindu sages explored the relationship between inner states and outer manifestation for thousands of years. These weren't separate discoveries by isolated groups. They were different expressions of the same universal principles that govern how consciousness interacts with the field of infinite possibilities. Each tradition developed practices and perspectives that helped their students access this deeper level of creative power, but the underlying mechanics remained consistent across cultures and centuries. The reason these teachings have endured is because they're describing something that operates beyond personal belief or cultural conditioning. They're mapping the actual architecture of reality itself, revealing how everything visible in our physical world first takes shape in the invisible realm of consciousness, intention, and vibrational frequency. This is where new realities are constructed, in that spaceless space where thought meets possibility, where desire encounters the creative matrix that underlies all form. When the ancient texts speak of faith moving mountains, they're not being metaphorical. They're describing the literal process by which focused consciousness influences the malleable nature of what we consider solid reality. Understanding these timeless principles changes your entire approach to manifestation, because you realize you're not trying to convince the universe to give you something it doesn't want to give. You're learning to align with laws that are always operating, patterns that govern every successful creation, whether the creator is conscious of them or not. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic, because there's a specific way to apply these ancient principles in your modern life that can bridge the gap between timeless wisdom and practical results. When you understand how to work with these invisible forces intentionally, your external world begins reflecting your internal mastery in ways that feel both miraculous and completely natural. Write in the comments, "I'm healing my inner abundance," if you're ready to address the unconscious patterns that have been blocking your prosperity from within. There's a sacred territory within your consciousness that most people never learn to access deliberately, yet it's the birthplace of every authentic transformation you'll ever experience. This isn't a mystical concept. It's a practical inner sanctuary where the most important decision of your entire manifestation journey takes place. It's the moment when you consciously choose to stop entertaining doubt and begin vibrating from the frequency of already having what you desire. This decision happens in complete privacy, in the most intimate conversation you'll ever have with yourself. Nobody else can witness this shift, measure it, or validate it for you. It occurs in that quiet space between your thoughts, in the pause between wanting and worrying, in the breath between desire and desperation. When you finally make this internal choice, really make it, not just think about making it, something fundamental shifts in your relationship with reality itself. You're literally reordering the field of possibilities that surrounds you. Instead of broadcasting need, lack, or uncertainty into the quantum fabric of creation, you begin transmitting the coherent signal of someone who already knows their desired outcome is inevitable. This isn't pretending or positive thinking. This is a deep, energetic shift that changes how you show up in every interaction, every decision, every moment of your life. The universe responds to this shift immediately because you're no longer sending mixed signals. You're not asking from desperation, hoping from anxiety, or working from fear of failure. Instead, you're operating from the profound confidence of someone who has recognized their inherent worthiness for a life of abundance and fulfillment. This recognition doesn't come from external achievement. It comes from an internal knowing that transcends circumstances. But here's what most people miss entirely, and it's the reason why so many individuals continue struggling financially even when they seem to have every advantage. They focus exclusively on the visible aspects of wealth creation, the strategies, the connections, the skills, the opportunities, while completely ignoring the invisible foundation upon which all external results are built. Money, like every form of abundance you could possibly desire, is intimately connected to something far more essential than your resume, your network, or your business plan. It's directly linked to your vibrational frequency, your invisible energetic field that's broadcasting information about who you are and what you believe you deserve 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. This energetic field isn't metaphorical, it's measurable. Scientists can detect the electromagnetic frequencies generated by your heart and brain. They can observe how your emotional states create coherent or chaotic patterns in these fields. What they're discovering aligns perfectly with what abundance practitioners have known for centuries. Your internal state creates your external experience through mechanisms that operate below the threshold of conscious awareness. Most people are walking around with energetic fields that are broadcasting confusion, desperation, unworthiness, or fear without even realizing it. They wonder why opportunities slip through their fingers, why people don't seem to take them seriously, why their best efforts produce mediocre results. Meanwhile, their invisible energy signature is telling everyone and everything around them a completely different story than the one they think they're sharing. The people who seem to attract success effortlessly aren't necessarily more talented, more educated, or more connected than others. What they possess is energetic coherence. Their internal state matches their external goals. Their vibrational field broadcasts worthiness, capability, and expectation of positive outcomes. When you encounter someone operating from this level of alignment, you can feel it immediately, even if you can't explain what you're sensing. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic because there's a specific way to begin calibrating your energetic field so that it supports rather than sabotages your manifestation efforts. Once you understand how to work with this invisible aspect of creation, everything else becomes significantly easier and more effective. Write in the comments, "I'm aligning my energetic field," if you're ready to begin working with the invisible forces that determine your visible results. What becomes immediately apparent when you study people who consistently attract abundance is that they operate from a completely different paradigm than those who struggle financially. It's not that they work less or care less about results. It's that they've discovered something profound about the nature of money itself that transforms their entire approach to wealth creation. These individuals don't view money as something scarce that must be chased, conquered, or earned through excessive sacrifice. They don't see it as a finite resource that requires them to compete desperately with others or prove their worthiness through endless hustling. Instead, they recognize money for what it actually is, a form of energy that flows naturally toward those who are energetically aligned to receive it. This shift in perception creates a completely different experience of pursuing financial goals. Instead of the exhausting, cycle of forcing, pushing, and struggling that characterizes most people's relationship with money, they enter into a state of natural attraction. They work with focus and intention, but their efforts feel inspired rather than desperate. They take action from excitement rather than fear. They make decisions from abundance consciousness rather than scarcity programming. The transformation in their results isn't just about the numbers in their bank account, it's about the quality of their entire life experience. They sleep better because they're not constantly anxious about money. Their relationships improve because they're not projecting financial stress onto others. Their creativity flourishes because they're not operating from survival mode. Their health improves because they're no longer chronically activated by financial worry. But here's what's truly remarkable. The difference between these naturally abundant individuals and those who struggle isn't found in their educational background, their family connections, or their access to opportunities. The distinction lies entirely in their internal relationship with abundance itself, how they think about money, how they feel about their own worthiness to receive it, and most importantly, the vibrational frequency they consistently maintain. They've internalized a truth that most people never discover. Money is simply another form of energy, operating according to the same universal principles that govern everything else in existence. Just as water flows downhill toward the path of least resistance, just as plants naturally grow toward sunlight, money naturally flows toward those who provide the least resistance to receiving it. When you truly understand this, not just intellectually but at a cellular level, everything changes. You stop trying to force outcomes and start creating the internal conditions that allow those outcomes to emerge naturally. You stop fighting against the flow of abundance and start aligning yourself with it. You stop seeing money as something outside yourself that you have to capture and start recognizing it as an energy that already exists within your field of possibilities. This understanding completely rewrites your decision-making process. Instead of asking, "How can I make this happen?" you start asking, "How can I allow this to happen?" Instead of "What do I need to do to get money?" you ask, "What do I need to become to receive money effortlessly?" Instead of focusing on acquisition, you focus on alignment. The people who master this approach develop what I call energetic magnetism. They become like tuning forks that naturally resonate at the frequency of abundance, and that resonance draws similar frequencies toward them without any forced effort. Their presence alone begins to attract opportunities, connections, and resources because they've become a living example of abundance consciousness in action. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic because there's a specific practice that can help you make this transition from efforting to allowing, from forcing to flowing. Once you master this fundamental shift in approach, you'll wonder how you ever thought struggle was necessary for success. Write in the comments, "I'm ready to flow with abundance," if you feel prepared to release the old paradigm of struggle and embrace this more natural way of attracting wealth. The breakthrough that changes everything isn't found in learning more strategies, working longer hours, or gathering additional resources. After years of studying people who have successfully transformed their financial reality, the pattern becomes crystal clear. What separates those who break through from those who remain stuck isn't a difference in external action, but a fundamental shift in internal state. Most people are trying to solve an internal problem with external solutions. They're attempting to heal their relationship with money by focusing exclusively on making more of it, without ever addressing the deeper psychological and energetic patterns that created their financial struggles in the first place. It's like trying to clean a dirty mirror by polishing the reflection instead of cleaning the actual surface. The transformation begins when you recognize that your current financial reality is a perfect mirror of your internal state regarding abundance, worthiness, and your capacity to receive. Every limitation you experience externally corresponds to a limitation you're holding internally. Every block you encounter in the world reflects a block you're maintaining within your own consciousness. This realization can be initially uncomfortable because it places the responsibility for change squarely in your hands, but it's also profoundly liberating because it means you have far more power to create change than you ever imagined. You don't need permission from anyone else to transform your internal state. You don't need external circumstances to improve before you can begin shifting your relationship with abundance. The moment you start changing how you perceive money, seeing it as friendly rather than threatening, as available rather than scarce, as something you're naturally capable of attracting rather than something you have to struggle to deserve, your external world begins responding to this new frequency. Opportunities that were always present but invisible to your previous consciousness suddenly become apparent. People who were always willing to help but couldn't connect with your desperate energy now find you approachable and trustworthy. But here's where most people make a critical mistake that undermines their transformation before it can fully take root. The moment they begin experiencing this internal shift, they feel compelled to share it with others, to explain what they're doing, to seek validation for their new approach. This impulse feels natural and even positive, but it actually represents one of the most dangerous phases of the manifestation process. The first and most crucial step in authentic transformation is learning to maintain sacred silence. Not because you're afraid or secretive, but because you understand that the most powerful creative forces operate in discretion. The purest, most transformative energy doesn't announce itself with fanfare or seek approval from others. It works in the intimate spaces of consciousness, in the quiet moments between thoughts, in the sacred privacy of your own inner sanctum. Think of how everything truly powerful in nature develops. Seeds germinate in darkness. Babies grow in the protected environment of the womb. Artists create their masterpieces in solitude before sharing them with the world. There's a natural incubation period that precedes every authentic manifestation, and this period requires protection from external interference, doubt, and well-meaning, but potentially disruptive input from others. When you're in the early stages of internal transformation, your new beliefs and expanded sense of possibility are still fragile. They're like tender shoots that have just begun to emerge from the soil of your consciousness. If you expose them too early to the harsh winds of other people's skepticism, fear, or limitation, you risk damaging the delicate process that's trying to unfold within you. This sacred silence isn't about isolation or secrecy born from shame. It's about energetic protection born from wisdom. It's about understanding that what you're cultivating is too precious to risk contaminating with energies that don't match the frequency of what you're trying to create. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic because there's a specific way to maintain this protective silence that actually accelerates your transformation rather than slowing it down. When you understand how to work with silence as a creative force rather than simply avoiding conversation, you tap into a level of manifestation power that most people never discover. Write in the comments, "I'm protecting my transformation," if you recognize the importance of safeguarding your emerging abundance consciousness from external interference. There's a profound distinction that most people never grasp between hiding something out of fear and choosing not to share it out of reverence. When you make the conscious decision to keep your emerging vision private, you're not operating from insecurity or shame. You're demonstrating a level of spiritual maturity that recognizes the sacred nature of creation itself. Every time you feel the impulse to share your developing dream, but consciously choose to honor it through silence instead, you're communicating something powerful to the universe. You're essentially saying, "I trust this process so completely that I don't need external validation to sustain my belief in it." This sends an unmistakable signal that you've moved beyond the need for others to confirm your vision in order for you to maintain faith in its eventual manifestation. This choice represents a fundamental shift in how you relate to your own creative power. Instead of seeking energy from others to fuel your dreams, You're learning to generate and maintain that energy internally. Instead of depending on encouragement from external sources, you're developing the inner strength to be your own source of inspiration and conviction. What happens energetically when you make this choice is remarkable. Energy that would normally disperse through conversation, explanation, and the inevitable responses of others, instead remains concentrated within your own field. Think of it like the difference between a wide river that spreads across a delta versus a focused stream that cuts through rock. The same amount of water flowing through a smaller channel creates exponentially more force and impact. Concentrated energy creates faster, more precise manifestations because there's no dilution, no mixed signals, no contradictory vibrations interfering with the pure frequency of your intention. Your vision maintains its original potency because it hasn't been filtered through other people's beliefs, limitations, or well-meaning doubts. But here's what's tragic about how most people approach their manifestation process. They unknowingly sabotage their own success, not through lack of capability or insufficient desire, but through the simple act of speaking about their dreams before those dreams have developed enough strength to withstand external influence. They dilute their creative power at the exact moment when concentration is most crucial. Every time you feel compelled to share your emerging vision with someone who hasn't asked, you're essentially delivering that vision to the courtroom of their consciousness. Whether you realize it or not, you're inviting their judgment, their opinions, their fears, and their limitations to mingle with your pure intention. Even when people respond positively, their energy becomes entangled with your creation, often in ways that shift the original vibration of what you were calling forth. This contamination happens so subtly that most people don't recognize it until after the damage is done. They share their exciting new business idea with a friend who responds with cautious concern about the risks. They describe their vision of financial freedom to a family member who immediately starts listing all the reasons it might not work. They reveal their spiritual practices to someone who reacts with skepticism or dismissal. Each of these interactions, no matter how brief or seemingly insignificant, introduces foreign energy into what was previously a pure creative field. Your original vision begins to incorporate elements that weren't part of your authentic desire. Doubt, where there was previously certainty. Complexity, where there was originally simplicity. Confusion, where there was once clarity. The people you share with aren't intentionally trying to sabotage your dreams, but they're responding from their own level of consciousness, their own relationship with possibility, their own capacity to believe in what they haven't yet experienced themselves. Their reaction inevitably reflects their inner state more than the actual viability of your vision, but once you've opened that door, their energy becomes part of your manifestation field, whether you want it there or not. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic because there's a specific way to recognize when you're about to dilute your power through premature sharing, and more importantly, how to channel that impulse to communicate into even more focused creative energy that accelerates rather than delays your manifestation process. Write in the comments, "I'm concentrating my creative energy," if you're ready to harness the full power of your vision by protecting it from dilution during its most vulnerable stages. When you begin to understand silence, not as the absence of communication, but as an active creative force, your entire approach to manifestation transforms. This isn't passive quiet or avoidance of conversation. This is conscious silence wielded as a precision tool for reality creation. It becomes the sacred container within which your most powerful intentions can develop without interference, distraction, or dilution from external forces that don't understand the delicate process unfolding within you. This silence creates what I call energetic protection, a buffer zone around your emerging dreams that shields them from the inevitable noise of a world that often operates from limitation, doubt, and conditioned responses to possibility. Within this protected space, something extraordinary becomes available to you. You can imagine without someone immediately explaining why it won't work. You can decree with complete conviction without having to defend your certainty to skeptical minds. You can express gratitude for outcomes that haven't yet materialized without someone questioning your sanity or suggesting you're being unrealistic. This terrain of protected silence becomes the laboratory where new realities are constructed. It's where your consciousness can play freely with possibilities that seem impossible to conventional thinking. It's where you can experiment with elevated emotions, expanded beliefs, and visionary thinking without having to constantly justify or explain your process to others who may not be ready to understand the principles you're applying. The most successful manifestors throughout history have intuitively understood this dynamic. They've recognized that sharing a vision too early isn't generosity or transparency. It's energetic leakage. Every word spoken about a developing dream before it has sufficient internal strength represents energy that's filtering out of your creative field and dispersing into conversations, explanations, and the mental processing of people who weren't part of the original inspiration. These masters of creation have learned to protect their emerging ideas with the same intensity that you might protect a flame in a windstorm. They understand that there's a critical period in every manifestation process where exposure to external elements, no matter how well-intentioned, can extinguish the delicate spark that's trying to grow into a sustainable fire. This protection isn't about secrecy or isolation. It's about timing and energetic integrity. Just as a photographer protects film from light until the proper moment of exposure, just as a chef protects a delicate sauce from temperature fluctuations during preparation, the conscious creator learns to protect their vision from premature exposure to energies that could disrupt its natural development process. The people who achieve extraordinary results have developed an instinctive sense of when their internal fire has grown strong enough to withstand external winds. They can feel the difference between a fragile spark that needs protection and a robust flame that can actually be strengthened by sharing. They've learned to trust their inner guidance about timing, recognizing that the universe has its own natural rhythms for bringing visions from the invisible realm into physical form. This discernment becomes one of their most valuable skills because it allows them to maintain the full potency of their creative energy throughout the manifestation process. They don't waste power trying to convince others of something they're still cultivating within themselves. They don't dilute their conviction by exposing it to doubt before it's mature enough to remain stable in challenging conditions. Instead, they use the energy that others spend on explanation and justification to further strengthen their internal alignment with their desired outcomes. They channel the impulse to share into even deeper levels of personal commitment, conviction, and energetic coherence with what they're creating. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic because there's a specific practice that can help you develop this same intuitive sense of timing that the most successful manifestors possess. Once you master this skill, you'll never again accidentally sabotage your own creations by exposing them before they're ready to thrive in the world. Write in the comments, "I'm protecting my flame," if you're ready to learn how to safeguard your most precious visions until they're strong enough to light up the world without being extinguished by external circumstances. When you study the deepest teachings of the most profound spiritual masters across different eras and traditions, a remarkable pattern emerges. Whether you're reading Neville Goddard's Explorations of Imagination as the ultimate creative force, Florence Scovel Shinn's insights about the game of life and how to play it, or diving into the most esoteric interpretations of Jesus' teachings about faith and manifestation, they all point to the same fundamental principle that transcends religious doctrine and cultural boundaries. They understood what I call the secret in the secret, that silent truth which doesn't need to announce itself to create profound transformation. This isn't about hidden knowledge kept from the masses or exclusive wisdom reserved for a chosen few. This is about recognizing that the most powerful forces in existence operate through subtle influence rather than forceful demonstration. It's about understanding that genuine transformation happens through vibration, not through verbal persuasion or external manipulation. Jesus spoke of going into your closet to pray, emphasizing the power of private communion with the divine. He wasn't promoting isolation or secrecy for its own sake. He was revealing that the most direct connection to creative power happens in the intimate space of personal consciousness, away from the performative aspects of public spiritual practice. When he said that what is done in secret would be rewarded openly, he was describing the natural law by which private alignment with truth manifests as visible transformation. Neville Goddard spent his entire teaching career emphasizing that imagination, when properly directed in the silence of your own mind, is the actual mechanism through which all physical reality is created. He didn't teach people to imagine loudly or perform their visualizations for others to witness. He taught the art of private assumption, of becoming so internally aligned with a desired state that external circumstances have no choice but to rearrange themselves to match that inner conviction. Florence Scovel Shinn revealed how words, when spoken from a state of inner knowing rather than outer desperation, carry the power to reshape destiny. But her most profound insights weren't about what to say to others. They were about the internal conversations that determine the quality of your external experience. She understood that the game of life is won or lost in the privacy of your own consciousness. What's remarkable about this wisdom is how accessible it actually is. You don't need to possess some rare spiritual gift that only a few people are born with. You don't need to spend decades in meditation retreats or study ancient texts in their original languages. You don't need permission from a teacher, initiation into a secret society, or validation from any external authority to begin accessing this level of creative power. The only requirement is something that's simultaneously incredibly simple and profoundly challenging. You need to return to what's essential. You need to strip away the layers of conditioning, expectation, and external programming that have convinced you to seek answers everywhere except the one place where your true answers actually reside. You need to remember how to listen to that internal voice that has been patiently waiting for you to stop searching outside yourself and return to the wisdom that's always been available within you. This internal voice doesn't speak in the dramatic tones of external gurus or the authoritative language of academic experts. It communicates through gentle knowing, through sudden clarity, through the quiet certainty that arises when you finally stop arguing with your own intuition. It's been calling you back to yourself for years, perhaps decades, waiting for you to become still enough and quiet enough to hear its guidance. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic because there's a specific way to begin distinguishing between this authentic inner voice and the countless other voices that compete for your attention throughout the day. Once you learn to recognize and trust this internal guidance system, you'll have access to a level of wisdom that no external source can provide. Write in the comments, "I'm returning to my essential self," if you feel ready to stop seeking answers outside yourself and start accessing the wisdom that's always been available within your own consciousness. The fundamental truth that transforms everything is recognizing that you live in a universe where absolutely everything, from the smallest subatomic particle to the largest galaxy, operates according to vibrational frequency. This isn't poetic metaphor or New Age wishful thinking. This is measurable, observable reality that quantum physics continues to confirm with increasing precision. Every single thought you sustain in your mind emits a specific vibrational signature. Every emotion you choose to inhabit generates its own unique frequency. Every word you repeat mentally, every belief you hold consistently, every feeling you allow to dominate your internal landscape, all of these are broadcasting continuously into the field of consciousness that surrounds you, literally shaping the quality and nature of what you experience, attract, and allow into your life. Most people remain completely unconscious of this constant transmission. They're generating. They think their internal world is private, contained, irrelevant to their external circumstances. But the truth is that your thoughts and emotions are like radio stations broadcasting 24 hours a day, and the universe is constantly tuning in to whatever frequency you're most consistently transmitting. When you sustain thoughts of lack, worry, or limitation, you're literally programming the field around you to deliver experiences that match those frequencies. When you consistently inhabit emotions of fear, resentment, or victimhood, you're creating a vibrational environment that naturally attracts situations that confirm and reinforce those states. This isn't punishment or cosmic justice. It's simply the mechanical operation of universal law responding to the signals you're sending. But here's what changes everything. Once you become conscious of this process, you gain the power to deliberately choose what frequencies you broadcast. Instead of being an unconscious transmitter of whatever random thoughts and emotions happen to arise, you become a conscious creator who intentionally selects the vibrational signature that will attract your desired experiences. Now, here's where this understanding becomes specifically powerful in relationship to money and abundance. Though we experience money as something physical and concrete, bills in our wallet, numbers in our bank account, tangible objects we can purchase, money is actually a form of energy that operates according to the same universal laws that govern every other manifestation in existence. Money energy doesn't randomly select where it flows. It doesn't make arbitrary decisions about which people to bless with abundance and which to keep in struggle. Money moves according to the same principles that water follows when it seeks the path of least resistance, that plants follow when they grow toward sunlight, that magnetism follows when it attracts metal. It goes where it's genuinely welcomed, flows toward where it finds authentic resonance, and remains where it discovers a stable, energetic field that can sustain and appreciate its presence. This means that your relationship with money isn't actually determined by your resume, your connections, your family background, or your geographical location. Your capacity to attract and maintain financial abundance is directly proportional to the vibrational environment you create through your consistent thoughts, emotions, and beliefs about money itself. If you internally treat money as an enemy, as something that corrupts people, as scarce and difficult to obtain, you're creating an energetic environment that money naturally avoids. If you harbor guilt about having more than others, shame about past financial mistakes, or fear about your worthiness to receive abundance, you're broadcasting frequencies that repel the very energy you claim to want. But when you begin to understand money as a neutral energy that flows naturally toward those who can receive it with gratitude, appreciation, and wisdom, everything shifts. When you create an internal environment where abundance feels welcome, where prosperity resonates with your deepest values, where financial success aligns with your authentic purpose, you become a magnet for the very experiences you've been seeking. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic because there's a specific way to begin consciously crafting the vibrational environment that naturally attracts abundance. And it starts with understanding how your current internal broadcast might be unknowingly repelling the very prosperity you desire most. Write in the comments, "I'm becoming conscious of my frequency," if you're ready to take responsibility for the vibrational signals you've been unconsciously transmitting and begin deliberately creating the energetic environment that welcomes abundance. There's something profound that happens when you commit to sustaining a new vibrational frequency for an extended period without breaking the pattern through doubt, discussion, or desperate checking for results. The people who have successfully transformed their financial destiny using these principles didn't just practice them occasionally or when they felt inspired. They made a non-negotiable commitment to maintain their new energetic signature for 21 consecutive days, understanding that real transformation requires consistent application over time. During this crucial period, something remarkable occurs in your consciousness and in the field of possibilities around you. The first few days might feel like you're simply pretending or forcing a state that doesn't feel natural yet. But as you continue to hold this new frequency without wavering, without seeking external validation, without breaking the silence to share your process with others, your nervous system begins to adapt to operating from this elevated state. These individuals stopped talking about their goals entirely and began embodying them at an energetic level. Instead of discussing what they wanted to create, they started living as if the creation was already complete. Instead of seeking encouragement from others, they became their own source of inspiration and conviction. Instead of looking for signs that their process was working, they sustained their new vibration with unwavering faith in the invisible mechanics of manifestation. The transformation that occurs during this period isn't just internal, it's systemic. As you turn off the external noise of doubt, comparison, and constant seeking for validation, you begin to emit such a clear and consistent internal frequency that everything around you starts to reconfigure in response. People begin treating you differently, often without being able to explain why. Opportunities start appearing that align perfectly with your silent intentions. Circumstances begin shifting in ways that support your new energetic identity. But the foundation of this entire transformation rests on a practice so simple that most people dismiss it as too basic to be effective. Yet this practice, when approached with genuine intention rather than mechanical repetition, becomes the daily ritual that maintains your connection to abundance consciousness, regardless of what appears to be happening in your external world. Every single day, without exception, you spend 5 minutes in silent gratitude meditation. But this isn't the kind of gratitude where you're asking for things to be different or hoping for future improvements. This is the profound practice of thanking the universe as if you already possessed everything your heart truly desires. You sit in quiet appreciation for the abundance that exists in the invisible realm, expressing genuine gratitude for outcomes that haven't yet materialized in physical form. This practice might initially feel like pretending or wishful thinking, but when approached correctly, it becomes one of the most powerful tools for vibrational alignment available to human consciousness. You're not performing an obligatory ritual to try to manipulate outcomes. You're expressing the authentic gratitude of your new vibrational identity, the version of yourself that naturally lives in abundance consciousness. As you sustain this practice day after day, something shifts in your cellular structure, in your nervous system, in your relationship with receiving. Your body begins to expect abundance rather than bracing for scarcity. Your emotions start to stabilize in states of appreciation rather than fluctuating between hope and disappointment. Your thoughts naturally gravitate toward possibilities rather than limitations. The key is approaching this practice from genuine feeling rather than intellectual exercise. When you can access real appreciation for blessings that exist only in potential, you're demonstrating a level of trust that the universe recognizes and responds to. Immediately, you're operating from faith rather than fear, from fullness rather than emptiness, from certainty rather than desperation. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic because there's a specific way to amplify the effects of this gratitude practice that can accelerate your results while deepening your connection to the source of all abundance. When you understand how to work with gratitude as a creative force rather than simply a positive emotion, you unlock access to manifestation speeds that seem almost supernatural. Write in the comments, "I'm committing to 21 days," if you're ready to make this level of dedication to your own transformation and sustain your new vibrational frequency regardless of external circumstances. There's a profound difference between practicing manifestation techniques mechanically and integrating them into your actual identity, and one of the most effective ways to bridge this gap is through what I call vibrational anchoring. This involves using physical objects not as magical talismans, but as tangible reminders of the energetic shift you've committed to maintaining within yourself. Consider carrying a small golden coin in your pocket, not because the coin itself has any special power, but because you've consciously designated it as a representation of your new relationship with abundance. You don't need to announce this to anyone or explain its significance. Only you know that this simple object represents your new wealth consciousness, your decision to vibrate at the frequency of prosperity regardless of current circumstances. Every time you touch this coin throughout your day, you're creating a moment of conscious reconnection with your chosen vibrational state. It becomes a silent extension of your internal decision, a physical anchor that reminds your body, your nervous system, and your energetic field that you're no longer operating from scarcity consciousness. You're already connected to the frequency of abundance, and this small gesture helps you remember that connection even during moments when external circumstances might tempt you to forget. This practice works because it engages your body in the transformation process, not just your mind. Your nervous system begins to associate the tactile sensation of touching the coin with the elevated emotional state of abundance consciousness. Over time, this creates a conditioned response where simply feeling the coin in your pocket instantly shifts your internal state back to alignment with prosperity, even if you've been temporarily pulled into worry or doubt. But here's what determines whether any of these practices actually create lasting transformation or simply become empty rituals that eventually lose their effectiveness, the authenticity of the purpose driving your desire for abundance. The universe has an unerring ability to distinguish between genuine intention and superficial manipulation. It responds to purpose. Always never to pretty words, mechanical repetitions, or techniques performed without authentic internal alignment. If your desire for money isn't connected to a deeper sense of purpose, if it's motivated purely by ego, comparison, or the belief that external wealth will solve internal problems, these practices won't create sustainable results. There has to be coherence between what you say you want and what you're genuinely willing to become vibrationally. The universe doesn't respond to contradiction, it responds to integrity. This means that before any external manifestation can occur, you must be willing to undergo the internal transformation that makes you capable of receiving and sustaining what you're requesting. You can't attract abundance while maintaining scarcity consciousness. You can't manifest prosperity while harboring guilt about having more than others. You can't create financial freedom while secretly believing you don't deserve it. The ritual becomes powerful when it's supported by authentic purpose, when your desire for abundance is connected to your genuine intention to express your gifts more fully, to serve others more effectively, to live with greater freedom and joy. When money becomes a tool for expressing your authentic self rather than a means of proving your worth or escaping your problems, the universe responds with remarkable speed and precision. This is why some people can practice manifestation techniques for years without seeing significant results, while others experience rapid transformation using the same methods. The difference isn't in the techniques themselves, it's in the level of authentic purpose and internal coherence that the person brings to their practice. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic because there's a specific way to identify whether your desire for abundance is coming from authentic purpose or from unconscious programming, and more importantly, how to purify your intention so that it aligns with the highest possibilities available to you. Write in the comments, "My abundance serves a higher purpose," if you're ready to ensure that your manifestation practice is rooted in authentic intention rather than ego-driven desires. One of the most liberating realizations you can have on this journey is understanding that your past financial history, your current circumstances, or any mistakes you've made have absolutely no power to determine your future capacity for abundance. The universe doesn't maintain a credit score of your worthiness based on previous performance. Abundance doesn't discriminate based on where you went to school, what family you were born into, or how many times you failed before. The only thing that matters, the only factor that determines your ability to attract and sustain prosperity, is your willingness to vibrate with truth in this present moment. Truth about your inherent worthiness, truth about the unlimited nature of universal abundance, truth about your capacity to transform your entire reality by shifting your internal state. When you align your energy with these fundamental truths, everything else becomes irrelevant background noise. You could have spent entire years, even decades, trapped in cycles of scarcity, limitation, and financial struggle. You might have made poor decisions, trusted the wrong people, or repeatedly sabotaged your own success through unconscious patterns you didn't even know you were running. None of this disqualifies you from accessing abundance consciousness right now, in this moment, with this breath, through this decision to begin vibrating differently. The moment you make the authentic commitment to align your energy with your deepest intention for prosperity, the entire field of possibilities around you begins to reorganize itself. Past failures become irrelevant. Current limitations become temporary. Future fears become powerless. You're operating from a completely different level of consciousness that doesn't recognize the validity of historical evidence when that evidence contradicts your present choice to embody abundance. This is where the magic becomes apparent, not as supernatural intervention, but as the natural consequence of sustained vibrational alignment. Imagine yourself 30 days from now, having consistently maintained this new frequency without wavering, without seeking external validation, without breaking the sacred silence that protects your transformation process. Something remarkable begins to happen in your external world that even you might initially find difficult to explain. Your reality starts changing in ways that appear completely natural to you, but seem mysteriously inexplicable to everyone around you. Opportunities begin flowing toward you with an ease that makes others wonder about your secret. People start responding to you differently, offering assistance, collaboration, and support that wasn't available before. Financial possibilities that seemed completely out of reach suddenly become accessible through pathways you never could have planned or predicted. This isn't luck, coincidence, or the result of any external manipulation on your part. This is the inevitable consequence of having activated a new vibrational signature and sustained it with unwavering fidelity over time. You've literally transformed yourself from within, and the external world has no choice but to respond to your new energetic frequency with matching experiences, people, and circumstances. The people around you won't be able to explain what they're witnessing because they're still operating from the old paradigm that believes external action creates internal results. They can see that something fundamental has shifted in your presence, your confidence, your decision-making, but they can't identify the invisible work you've been doing in the privacy of your own consciousness. They witness the effects but remain blind to the cause, because the real work happened in a dimension they don't recognize as significant. If you've stayed with me through this entire exploration of silent manifestation and abundance consciousness, then something inside you recognized the truth in these principles long before your mind could fully process them. That recognition isn't coincidence. It's your soul remembering what it has always known about your capacity to create reality through vibrational alignment. The fact that you're still here, still listening, still feeling the resonance of these words means you're ready for a different kind of relationship with abundance, one that honors both your spiritual nature and your practical needs. If this conversation has felt more like a reunion with forgotten wisdom than a lesson in new concepts, that's exactly what it was meant to be. This channel exists for people like you, individuals who sense there's more to manifestation than positive thinking, who understand that real transformation happens in the quiet spaces between thoughts, who are ready to do the invisible work that creates visible miracles. When you subscribe, you're not just following another channel. You're joining a community of conscious creators who are committed to mastering the art of silent manifestation. If this message found you at exactly the right moment, if these words seem to speak directly to something you've been feeling but couldn't articulate, let me know by writing in the comments. I'm with you until the end. That simple phrase tells me you understand that this isn't just information, it's transformation disguised as conversation. The connection we've built over these moments together deserves recognition. And if you felt that connection, if something shifted inside you as we moved through these concepts, a like on this video helps ensure that others who need this message will find it when they're ready to receive it. There's a video right here that complements this topic, perfectly diving even deeper into the practical application of these silent principles. Click and continue with me over there, because your journey into conscious abundance is just beginning, and the next layer of understanding is waiting for you.